So Angela, today you're better known as a mental health activist, and you often share your experiences on social media. When did you first realize that all wasn't well, and what was your turning point?
Now, the first time I realized that all wasn't well is when I was not sleeping enough. Is when I was not, I was no longer interested in what I have always loved doing. I love writing. Because like I said, always a journalist, you'll always be. Once a journalist, always a journalist. I was no longer interested in writing. Like my energy levels were low. And then obviously for it to show physically, it showed as rapid speech, what the scientists will call rapid speech. You're speaking constantly. And really, as a human being, you cannot speak from, say, 6 a.m. up to 6 a.m. No, p.m. rather, without stopping. What kind of person is that? So, so my brain was also fatigued. So physical manifestation, it came out like that. That's how I knew I'm not okay. And of course, also carrying emotional baggage, where I did not understand what healthy communication is. Because I think also as Africans, we are trained to most times I think, to keep quiet about what is hurting us. And not be able to communicate it healthily, so that you are heard, and then you are also able to make the adjustments that need to be made. So I also needed that, and the challenge of trying to please everybody. A very big burden I carried on my shoulders, and I could not manage to do that, because I keep telling people, even Jesus is perfect. But he also had enemies, so I can't please everybody, and I'm at peace with it now. But these are the things that were also draining me mentally and emotionally.
Okay, and then how did it then really manifest, so that you know that, okay, at this point now I really need to do something about
the rapid speech, lack of sleep. Interestingly, I could eat, but I lost weight. I remember I would lose weight, and a friend of mine went, because I just had a child of mine. By the time the actual crisis happened, my baby was 9 months. But before that actual crisis, I remember going back to work, and one of my supervisors noticed and said, "Hey, Angela, you've lost a lot of weight." Like it happened quickly. But I'll tell you the truth, I was actually eating. But one of the ways that show mental and emotional distress is that drastic loss of weight. And yet someone might actually be eating. Some people might overeat, but then for me, in my case, I was eating what I had to eat. I was not starving myself, but I was losing weight.
But you were losing weight
quite rapidly.
And what are some of those common misconceptions about mental health that you've discovered and would like to address?
Now, some of the misconceptions, people think that for us as Africans, we don't get mental health crisis. They think it's a luxury. They'll tell you, "Chochejo." As an African, you are hard. They say black don't crack, right?
Indeed.
So they are telling you shouldn't crack. It's a weakness to crack. And then obviously that is not true, because we are human. As long as you have a brain, everyone is prone to a crisis. The issue is your resilience level. So another misconception that I have found is that some people, just because someone has had a diagnosis, they cease to value you as a human being, and they cease to treat you with dignity. And that is a very big misconception, because even when you have a crisis, I'll tell you, you remember people who have been kind to you. You remember people who have been mean to you. So you're not totally out that you can't think. And even though somebody could not remember, people need to be treated with dignity. So those are the misconceptions, and people, the stigma is real. Because people are afraid to speak up.
Yes. When you talk of crisis, possibly you could be able to describe it. What does crisis manifest?
Now
like?
The crisis can be, I'll try to use an elastic. Supposing you have your elastic. The elastic, you tug at it, pull. You know, because life pressure has to be there.
Yes.
Whether you are a mom, whether you are married or you are not married, life has pressure.
Yes.
So now as you're pulling this elastic, it can take the pressure up to a certain point and then you snap, right? So now for you to have a mental health crisis is that point when you snap. And you're snapping, your emotions are out of control. Like you can no longer control it yourself. You are at that place where you'll need other kind of support for you to be able to calm down, because sometimes now, like in my case, how it manifested, being manic, and being manic is you could be speaking rapidly, shouting at people. It could be anything when they say manic. So the crisis is when you can no longer, like your system can no longer take it and you just snap. So it is your way of crying for help. I can't go on anymore. I need help. But people shouldn't get to that level. You can still get help without snapping. But I just wanted to use an elastic so that our listeners can envision that elastic, because we all have pressure we can handle, but at a certain point you just can't anymore. You need support. And with proper support, I'm sure some people don't need to get to the place of snapping. Yes.
Yeah. Talking about support, you have formed support, I would say maybe support institutions. You're the team lead of Heart to Heart Chat Mental Health Program, and also co-founder of My Story Initiative. Tell me about some of these initiatives and what you are doing to support people with mental health challenges.
Okay, one of the things, because I'm a woman who believes in stories, the power of stories. Actually, the slogan for that initiative is, our stories, our power. So I believe in the power of stories. We get in safe spaces where we share our stories, and we call those safe spaces peer support groups. I've been trained on how to help people form those groups. So we can have those discussions either online or physically, but we prefer physical, although we still have conversations also online, because we have gotten in touch with people also who have a similar initiative in Kenya, and we do online discussions with them, just for people to share their experiences, see how do I cope, how do I thrive, what did you do to get where you are, so that people have hope. And through the same initiative, now I'll say also Ntamba Wellness Support, through the same initiative, then there is also the Ketura Mental Health Awards, which is a platform to help bring mental health in the spotlight. But how do we do this? We do this by allowing the public to participate. They nominate their winning person in different categories. We have different categories. So I'll just give an example maybe of one of the categories.
Please go ahead.
Leadership through lived experience. And when we say that, the mental health award, somebody who wins such an award needs to have a lived experience. They need to have had a mental health crisis before. Some of them might still be with it, but they are still impacting in society. They're coming up with initiatives to support other people. So we recognize them, but we call out for nominations, and we normally do a grand celebration October 10th, which is World Mental Health Day. Now, other things that we do, we spread our wings, because what Heart to Heart does, actually Heart to Heart brings together caregivers, people with lived experiences, and other professionals. And in that circle, we also have a WhatsApp group. The beauty about it, everyone, let me say it's Flora or it's Ida, you have your project around mental health. You are allowed to grow it by sharing the strength and the networks within that space, because that is the uniqueness about us. So you don't all have to be like you're doing work for Heart to Heart per se, but you already have your initiative, and this is a space from which you also draw the strength, expertise to grow wherever you are. So I could call Heart to Heart like kind of a midwife of sorts to help others also birth their initiatives. Then My Story Initiative is a non-profit organization which I co-founded with 2 other people who are siblings. And now we are so big on empowering people with psychosocial disabilities, because interestingly, all of us who are co-founders, we all have lived experience. So we are fronting that story and showing people it is not the end of your life. You can actually thrive.
Indeed.
The diagnosis is not, don't allow it to limit you.
Yes.
You can achieve, you can
Yes.
grow. But also it's a platform where we are saying no to human rights abuse, because there's a lot of abuse. It's painful when people who have a mental health issue are in care, in hospitals, the beatings. I'm not saying everybody who goes there is beaten, but the fact is there's been abuse. Sadly, some people have lost lives. Yeah, sadly, some have lost lives. Others, it is like they've been crushed. There's a part of them that dies. And of course, one of the things I want to discourage a lot is isolating people in what they call the side room, because you are supposedly violent, even though the patient were violent. The way it is handled is not dignified. Because I'm talking to people, I talk to people, I connect with people in that space, and someone will tell you, Angela, I was recently taken there, but they stripped me. And these are recent issues. So I'm not only talking about the past. Because one of the people who I've been in touch with, she recently was in admission late last year and early this year. But they pushed her in that place, they stripped her naked. In that place, you are naked. In that place, there's no proper beddings. There's just a slab of cement for you to sleep. That is the harsh reality. Toilet facilities, we are hoping they will soon be a reality. But otherwise, that is also another harsh reality of their absence. Yeah.
That is quite sad, I would say, because
Yes.
I imagine you are already unwell, and such care facilities would only aggravate the issues.
Yeah. So those are some of the challenges, but that's what the initiatives are about, so that people stop shying away. The pain is real. Let's talk about it, and all of us can make a difference wherever we are.